Welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, where forward-thinking business leaders come to share their experiences and ideas, learn from each other, and amplify their results together.
Hey guys, Amir Reiter here with the Transform Sales Podcast. I got my guest, James Donaldson, Head of Partnerships at EngageTech. James, what's up, man? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Glad to be here. Thanks, Amir.
Yeah, appreciate you having you here. Where are you based today? You're based in London?
Yeah, London Bridge.
Nice. What time is it there now? 6 o'clock?
4 o'clock, not quite that late.
Yeah, it's 11 a.m. here in Colombia, which is sunny, but you can't see it because I cover the window. But I appreciate you being on the show. The idea for the show basically is for us to kind of talk about some of the mistakes that buyers make when buying from agencies, but also from working with them, right? Because I think the big time it's selecting and then the ongoing stuff. And who you guys help and how you help. But before we get into that, I'd love to know how you got into the business. How did you get into sales service business in general? What brought you here?
Yeah, a bit of a strange one, really. I spent a while in hospitality out of university, managed a bar, managed a restaurant, was a chef for a little while, and I enjoyed a lot of it. But you end up working very unsociable hours, and you can only spend time with the people you're working with because you're working when your other friends have their time off, and becomes a bit
work gets off at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night.
Exactly, and it just ends up unsocial. But I then, I've always liked the idea of the harder I worked within those areas, the more I earned but it was normally based on hours or tips and stuff like that. And then I enjoyed the customer engagement, so I started looking into sales roles and was pointed in the direction of EngageTech 6 years ago. Been here ever since. Loved the agency side of it and been able to, I guess, serve a variety of our customers.
So you went from hospitality, you were a chef, and now you're in sales.
Yeah.
Have you regained back some of that social life with these new hours, the 9 to 5ers?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've gained back my weekends, but you're always tied back into socials and sales events during the week. So
yeah,
it's good. It is good. It's much better social.
Well, we're glad you're here. So welcome to the sales outsourcing community. There's plenty of chefs out there. We need more leaders like yourself in this area. So let the chefs be chefs. So you've been around for 6 years. So you've seen, I'm sure, all the problems that buyers make. Let's talk about it. What comes to mind when you take a sales call, somebody lands on your website, they get a referral to you, and they're evaluating to see whether or not your agency is the right one. What mistakes are they making? Or what mistakes do you think they're making?
I guess sometimes it comes down to there's always the cost one. I think, and the simplest way I always think about that is they're trying to look. They want to outsource it because they want someone else to take that risk or that responsibility for booking those initial appointments and filling that top of funnel. But they often compare that cost to the cost of them hiring someone themselves. And if you come to us and you ask to work with us for a year, it will cost you more than hiring someone yourself.
But won't it cost you more than hiring someone for yourself only because it's not a 1-to-1 ratio?
Yeah, but it's also the risk and it's the training and the value and all that stuff that they have to put into hiring their own SDR. And there's no guarantee that will work.
Actually, it's most likely it won't work, right? Like the data says.
Exactly.
You don't have to be nice on the podcast, by the way. You can be honest.
I'm trying to be nice, I guess. But yeah, it's very hard to do. So that's probably the main thing. I think.
So when you say cost, is it not only that they're looking for a low cost, but they don't understand the true cost of hiring internally? Because my understanding is that an account with you guys gets an SDR, a manager, probably a content writer, right, a success team. Yeah. So it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. So why even compare it 1-to-1?
Exactly that. It's not a fair comparison, but they still expect a low cost per lead, and often it's also they're going to compare that to the closed business off the back of that, which is a different problem they're trying to solve. Do
you think that they have a full control of the math of their sales? Like, do buyers come in actually knowing, do they even know how much it costs to hire somebody? Do they know any of these things? Do they know what it costs to manage it? Are they, we have a spreadsheet I made, and it broke down all of the costs between internal and external, and people wouldn't even look at it. They wouldn't even use it, right? So it's like as if it's like they don't know and they don't care to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you think that is?
There's a lot of. I think it's because sales development is hard to get right, and there's a lot of elements that go into it. But if you're a long-term and experienced salesperson or director, you want those. You think it's as simple as meetings in the diary, and they need to convert. And if you're coming, especially if you're an agency or a company who hasn't tried to build your own sales development model, but then you're going to someone else for that, you probably aren't aware of all the little things and all the little steps that go into that.
Yeah, I'm like, let's face it too, most salespeople aren't CFOs, right? So you got VPs of sales that you hire because they have that extroverted personality. They're able to they're able to shake and bake for the last 20 years and like have the open spreadsheets and it's probably not, right? So it's probably not a lot of alignment between the financial team and the hiring team. I have never seen a buyer that was fully educated on the cost. It's almost as if they'll lose power by knowing, right? So like if they knew, they'd almost be like, I can't use this excuse anymore, right? So it's like, I feel like they want to be naive because it gives them leverage to negotiate a lower cost, but that leverage they think they're getting is hurting the results they're going to get and the performance of the seller. So it's like this weird thing that nobody's really winning, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you were to continue down that path, you're then de-incentivizing and affecting the SDR you do end up working with, because they are going to perform much better with someone who understands all those things that go into their process, all the things that go into their costs and their effectiveness, rather than someone who's just there expecting high-level meetings constantly that are going to convert, and it's really easy. It's a long, tiresome process for a lot of SDRs.
Makes sense. Other than price, negotiating price, what else do you see?
One of the biggest ones that I would suggest is that it's communication to the wider sales team. So if you come to us and ask us to act as your outsourced SDR, we need the rest of your sales team to also be on board with that. There's got to be an acceptance that we, as the outsourced SDR, yes, we're working on an agreed target list and with an agreed message. But if we're prospecting into those accounts, we need to be aware of anything else your sales team is doing against those accounts. Otherwise, we might step on people's toes, and that's through no fault of our own.
Do you consider that like a DNC list? Are you asking for a DNC list before you start clients?
I think you should always ask for a do not call list before you start a campaign. And then I think you need to continue to work with the sales teams that you're actually setting the meetings for, and they need to be very aware of who you are, how you're going to operate, and be giving you updates constantly. So
no, this is, and by the way, James, is something that's very consistent between interviewing people. There's and it's hard, right? Because I ask you the mistakes that they make, right? And you immediately you come to one mistake on the buying side, but then you flow into a mistake on the service side, right? Because every leader we talk to is more concerned about what goes on after winning a business versus winning, right? I don't think anybody in the industry really wants to win a customer for 90 days to have them cancel. It's demoralizing. It's a loss of money, right? So it's easy to see that you flip right into the second problem being communication, right? And it's to me, even with a DNC list, right? You can have, if you have a team that has 20 SDRs that are internal, those 20 SDRs can touch 2,000 accounts in a month. If they don't communicate to you, right? Then there could be some problems. And this happens between you and me internally. It's like friendly fire. It's just that it's friendly fire. It's like they don't, you know what I mean? They absorb it, right? Like, man, it's our fault. Yeah. If it's the agency that does it, it's the agency's fault, right? But how could it be your fault if you weren't told?
Yeah. I like that terminology of friendly fire. We are on the same team here. We're not going behind. We're not trying to go behind your sales team's back to book meetings so that we can then claim we've hit our targets. No, we're trying to book you meetings that will help you build pipeline and then further down the line.
Do you think there's just some adversarialness just because of the fact that you're a vendor and they're employees, so they just have this kind of tendency to be like the vendor's always one step out the door, and we're and yeah. Does that help the company though? Does that help the buyer?
I don't think it does. like it's specifically when the sales reps, they don't know, if they don't have that communication with the SDR and the outsource process, and that they haven't got the buy-in, if it's the decision maker who's then bought the service from us and that's not being communicated back to their sales team, that's when that communication starts to break down. And like you say, it is that, oh, they're 1 foot out the door, they're just trying to book meetings, which is never the case. The SDRs, our SDRs, are commissioned in only on attended meetings that hit the criteria and are within the target market. So they have every best interest of working as closely as they can with that sales rep. And
I think buyers know that, right? I think they know it. I think it's the difference between knowing it and how they act, right? And it's, I think it's I go like, podcasts like this, content where we're kind of being more transparent, dual sides, so people can kind of see the other perspective, right? Because I don't think there's any SDR company that doesn't take pride in what they're doing, that doesn't get measured even harder than the internal team, right? Like I think getting measured on qualified meetings is crazy. Like what about people that are in the awareness zone, consideration stage, click your stuff? Like there's no value on that, but there should be, right? So it's like you're measured on the toughest of the toughest stuff, right? And then also treated a little adversarial. I hope that I hope that what's going on in the market today, right? I think there's been a shift between growth at all costs to very smart growth, right? And I think that's going to solidify higher educated buyers, right, and sellers, because at the end of the day, there was a free for all, right, of hiring SDRs, right? And now I think people realize that it's one of the hardest positions to do. It's one of the hardest training things to get out. Focus on training account executives, right? If you can increase your conversion rates from 10 to 20%, it's a big deal. That's 2x meetings, right? Yeah. So it's like there's plenty of work for companies to do, right? If they want to pick what to do, and I think that commitment to outsourcing is a big deal. What is the average time frame do you think that customers start seeing the results that they're expected? Like month 1, 2, 3, they probably want too much, they're a little bit nervous. Where's that sweet spot where that if a customer makes it to X amount, they're probably gonna be with you for years?
Yeah, so that's a good point as well. That ramp time's like super important, and an acknowledgement that there is a ramp time. I think for us, all of our campaigns are a minimum of sort of around 5 or 6 months. But it's really month 4 and 5 where you start to see a real ramp in those movements.
Before we were a marketplace, we had about 265 SDRs. We were a service company, and I noticed that the more 4 and 5 mark were the months that really, we had 6-month minimum agreements. Those were our happiest clients. Anybody who was less than that was unhappy. It's because they almost had, and obviously not talking 6 months being held into something that's completely not working. I've let people out before. I've had people that were 6-month contracts and we were doing all the right things and no problem, we don't want to take your money and it's not working. But there are some times where you have to be like, we are the experts. We know that, we know that your product sells for $100,000 ACV and you need 2 sales, and we know that it's, like we have more information and hold still, which is interesting. Any other mistakes that come to mind that bubble up top, or those are the common ones?
I think those are the common ones, and that final one on like ramp, like misunderstanding that ramp time, and like a willingness to let the process play out. Gotta
understand the process and let the process, or if you don't want to understand it, just be like, I agree that I don't understand the process, but I'm going to trust the experts, right? Do either or. Don't not understand it and then not trust it, right? Either or, right? I've hired people before that are like, I trust you guys, like just do it, right? And there's other buyers who don't trust, don't know, and they hurt themselves. So let's talk about the right buyers, right? Like someone's listening to this, they've either outsourced before, it didn't work out in their perspective, or they just need more pipeline. They're listening to the podcast. What are your best fit customers? Is it software or services? If you had to pick one.
I had to pick one.
Yeah, sorry. Just for the purpose of this call.
Yeah, I'd probably say services then. For us, we specialize in B2B, IT, and tech. But where, like, if you have a message where you have a lot of value-added services around all of that, one of our SDRs can pick that up and run with it.
When you say, is it like MSP, managed service providers?
Yeah, managed service providers are a great fit.
That's great. We have plenty of those people who need help. What's the characteristic of that is it based in EMEA? Are you doing US based campaigns? Where's your best market right now?
Our best market is EMEA. We've been in the UK for 12 years. We've had an office in Stockholm for 6 years now. But we also do APAC, English speaking APAC, and we can do some US stuff. But EMEA is really like our strongest and our foothold.
So do you do any work in the States, or is it mainly EMEA?
Yeah, we can call into the States from here. So that kind of means we probably cut out from like the West.
What does PDR do to you guys? Does it give you guys an advantage or a disadvantage? Is it more to like with these laws coming in Europe? Is it more reason for a company? If I'm an MSP and I'm not in the business of all this data protection, is it more of a reason to contact a company like you guys?
I think it is because we have done this for so long. And all of our data is completely organic. So we own that data. We've built it ourselves, and we've never had making 20 to 30,000 calls a week. We've never had an issue. So that gives a lot of I guess credence and strength to the security behind our data.
So basically, you guys have a lot of first party intent data just from all the time. And that makes sense. People don't talk about that, right? But there's $1 billion data companies, right? So it's like you're going to work with a $1 billion data company with crappy data, or you're going to hire an agency. How can you compare? How do you compare the cost when you talk about cutting costs, right? The SDRs they hire do not come with 6 years of cleaning data and verifying data. They just don't, right?
Exactly.
I bet you the data you have is probably as valuable as what you charge.
Well, yeah, it is, and it's why we've also been able to do a SaaS product, right? So purely on the data and the fact that we've got that many.
You got a SaaS product too.
Yeah, we got a SaaS. So you
have a SaaS data product built off. Makes sense, right? You fixed the problem, right? The problem was that the data in the area is not the best. Can't reach it, and then by doing it, you built the product itself. That makes lots of sense. Another one of our OSPs, Outbound View, specializes in HR tech and HR personas, and something very similar, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
I like that. So can someone come to buy just the data for you as well, right? So somebody listening here, not only can they can buy the data, or they can hire you and have the data included.
Exactly that.
I'd rather hire you and have data included.
Well, yeah, that's normally the best option. It gives you the most security, right? And then help you get it up and running, test messages, make sure everything's in place. And then if you want to hire your own team, we can help you do that, and you can run with the data yourself.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm like, we're going to know a lot of people to introduce to you, because that's it's very niched out and very specific, which I like. Where do you think the industry is going? Where do you see this industry going in the next 5-10 years?
The sales agency one?
Sales agency industry in general. What do you see? What's next for us?
Yeah, I think, and this is an idea and sort of a direction that we're going in, is that there is so much data like behind a sales agency's, I guess, wall, as it were. That is offers so much value. The best ones are going to be able to package that and provide other services around sales development as a whole. So, we can become a value-added reseller for anyone who's trying to build their own sales development function. We can come in and say, these are the best tools for your purpose. You can buy them through us. We'll also, whilst that's up and running, provide you an SDR to make sure you're building pipeline and demonstrate how to use it all. So there becomes this value-added reseller area of sales development, which I think is really exciting.
I think so too.
The customer and everyone.
Yeah, I agree with you. I use PartnerStack and I do some other reselling stuff, but I think it's got a long way to go as far as the ecosystem. But I think it's going to be here to stay soon. This has been great. I appreciate you coming on the show. Where can people reach you if they want to contact you? They want to set some time out. They're an MSP looking to penetrate either the UK or EMEA. Where do they find you? The website, your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, I mean, CloudTask, great place to start. And then LinkedIn's obviously really good. All of us are quite active, so reach out to me or Callum or Steph Geraldo.
All right, man, awesome. I'm gonna be proactively looking for MSPs so that you can help them, because it's so much easier. Like the talk track is so easy. It's like we've been doing this for 6 years. We got the data. We got expertise. Like it doesn't make any sense really to hire, in my opinion, an SDR unless they buy your data and they use it, right, and then they compete.
Exactly. Yeah, we can help them build the team and whichever they prefer. So yeah, it's exciting times over here.
Yeah, like I said before, the data is huge because people are they're scared of the consequences of doing it wrong, right? So it's like how do you price that, right? If they come in with a cost, now you have the cost of liability of doing it wrong and getting fined. So for me, it's like a no-brainer.
Exactly.
Which sounds awesome. So James, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for taking the time to be on the Transform Sales podcast.
Yeah, appreciate being here and being invited on. Thanks, Amir.
You got it, man. Talk soon. See ya.
Cheers. Thanks very much.